What up, y'all? It's T-Tar, and today we're going to be continuing my theory train about the new mythical Pokemon being Kintaro. There's two other videos to watch. You don't necessarily have to watch them first. I'll try to make it as understandable as possible, but the idea is we think this might be the new mythical Pokemon, and based off one of the last Japanese folk tales that weren't addressed in Scarlet and Violet called Kintaro, the Golden Boy. And so that's the Golden Boy. And I ended the last video talking about how I thought Kintaro's story would play out, and I'm going to expand on that in this video. So we've talked a lot about something on this channel, the third DLC in Scarlet and Violet. We've pretty much figured out, using logic, whether there'll be a third DLC or not. The final verdict is there isn't gonna be. But there might be a third DLC in a different sense. Because you can see in the logo, right, they put the yellow sparkle in there. Whatever Kintaro is, just going off my theories, he's supposed to play some role in the bigger scheme of what it means, the hidden treasure of Area Zero. Ogerpon, Peachron, and Terapagos played some role, Ogerpon and Peachron's more removed. So how could this thing play a role? Why would it have its own sparkle if it's literally just like the Zarude of this game? He doesn't deserve a sparkle. And so this is what leads to how I'm thinking this will play out, which is that we will get a third Scarlet and Violet DLC, but it's not going to be inside our games. So this is what I was saying at the end of the last video, which is that the new Pokemon movie coming out is going to be consistent with the games. It's going to be canon, which means this is going to be a story that Game Freak is going to give the outline of to Pokemon, and then Game Freak is going to sign off on the final story the Pokemon movie company gives back to them, and then one Game Freak representative is going to like supervise the movie so that it is an actual canon movie to the Pokemon game franchise. Because right now, I'm just saying this because the movie space is a bit weird. There's many paths when I think of this in my head. Ash could return for this new mythical Pokemon movie. You know, he could just return for every movie, even though he's gone from the anime. It'd be nostalgic to see. It could work for Pokemon and getting a bunch of money made. Another idea is they use Liko for the new movie, so it just promotes the anime back and forth. But the reason I'm saying this third idea is because Pokemon and Game Freak is having a lot of fun with writing in general. Even the anime team is having a lot of fun with the new anime. They're telling a brand new story, and since they're not limited to the confines of making this easy loop for Ash to go through again and again, they're telling a really fun story over there. And then meanwhile, Scarlet and Violet is one of Game Freak's best stories with Pokemon, not only in the content of the games, but with the new Pokemon they introduced, the Paradox Pokemon, the topic they introduced, like time travel, as well as the smaller stuff, like talking about bullying, and then Arven with this parent dynamic, then plot twisting Ogerpon's story, having a classy take for what Terapagos actually turned out to be, and then for the first time reintroducing a mythical Pokemon event and tying it to Ogerpon. You know, Peachron, it could have been this complete other irrelevant Pokemon to what we knew in game, but they tied Peachron to Ogerpon to create its counterpart. So they're having a lot of fun writing, which is crazy. So it's because of this that I think Pokemon might start to do something where they make canon movies. So it works both ways, right? The reason the final piece of gameplay we got was called the epilogue is because that's the end of what we're gonna be able to play. But there's still a third DLC that is movie exclusive, and it's gonna tell the tale of this Kintaro Pokemon, the last Sparkle. That's my theory, that's my prediction, and I'm gonna tell you how the story is gonna go down. So to summarize, I think this movie is gonna touch on Area Zero. It's gonna be about a certain group of people that go down to Area Zero and the discoveries they make. I'll touch more on that later, but Terapagos is gonna play a role in the story. So for the title, it could be something like, you know how you had Giratina in the Sky Warrior, Arceus in the Jewel of Life? It could be something like Terapagos and the Golden Ape. And the reason for and the Golden Ape would be, that would technically be the third DLC turned into a movie. Teal Mask, Indigo Disc, Gold Ape. But personally, I think a title like Terapagos and the Guardian of Area Zero would sound a lot cooler, because one way I think it'd be cool to spin Kintaro's role is as Area Zero's guardian. You know how they speak about it sometimes, and it seems like it's Terapagos, and it probably is Terapagos? They could spin that to be Kintaro instead. See, I talked about this before, but what I think would be cool if they did is they turn this gorilla into a tragic version of Kintaro, where he's sad and lonely. He has the same strength, but he's got like the bad outcome, and he's stuck in Area Zero. So the movie would be about, okay, it would be about a couple hundred years ago. The movie would be about Heat going into Area Zero, which is a really weird topic to touch on. But the other reason I'm saying this is because it's not in game form, Game Freak and Pokemon can take advantage of this by making this a story not involving our main character in Scarlet and Violet, and you can actually tell an old tale. So I think this will be a story about Heath and his crew going into Area Zero and them documenting their adventures. And one of the things they're gonna come across is this gorilla that's going away from them, and Heath and their team to take sketches of it and all. And this movie is gonna go in a complete other direction, while the book only records that faint piece of what happens in the movie by showing that drawing of the gorilla. Pretty much everything that happens in the movie is going to be left out of the book. But the point of having that gorilla in the book is to tie into the movie and show that these events really did happen. So after you watch this movie, if you look at that book, you'll realize that was real. On the surface, the movie is going to be something like their excavation team making it to the bottom of Area Zero, finding this gorilla on the way, and actually, the gorilla is a nice Pokemon. Kintaro, tragic or not, it's a very nice character. It's nice to animals and humans. It's not just gonna like attack Heath. So Heath and his crew would run into Kintaro, and Kintaro would help show them around Area Zero during their expeditions. That's the movie on the surface that I wanted to tell. But I don't think this movie should be about Heath. I think Heath is too on the nose. So the second layer to what I think this movie should be about is you had Heath's crew going into Area Zero, right? I think early in Heath's crew's adventure, one of them strays away from the team. So, you know, everyone was grouped together when they were first drawing the sketch, but this one person strays away and meets up with Kintaro and has this whole adventure in Area Zero, uncovering different secrets in the movie, while Heath's main crew does what we see in the books and makes it to Area Zero and comes back out. This is why Heath only writes about that small drawing of the gorilla, and why you don't like see the gorilla in other parts of the book, right? Because Heath wasn't core to the adventures that Kintaro had. It's just this one person that strayed away. And by doing this, you get to keep Heath more mysterious, which I like. So this person in Kintaro would have all kinds of adventures going down to Area Zero, and in fact, they might be trapped in Area Zero longer than Heath stayed before he went back up. Heath only stayed in Area Zero for like, what, 3 days? Their adventure was very quick for some reason. This dude might be trapped for a long time, maybe months. But this movie would be about him and Kintaro just going around Area Zero, and him connecting with Kintaro, learning that it's this sad gorilla Pokemon that one day fell into Area Zero and it's been trapped ever since. But Kintaro also, you know, wants to protect the Pokemon in Area Zero, so it feels like it can't leave. And in this movie, because that's truly Kintaro's character, right? He loves taking care of all the animals, even the human one. I need to give a name to this dude. We'll call him Stray Man, because he strayed away from Heath's team, right? He's gonna be hanging out in Area Zero with Kintaro, and Kintaro's gonna show him a different, vibrant side to Area Zero, where Pokemon are happy and living together, which is different than the weird, gloomy feeling, ominous feeling we get in the games, and how Heath describes his adventure down. Kintaro's gonna show him all these happy Pokemon, show him different unique crystals in Area Zero, places that we can't go to in game. And as Kintaro is excitedly showing this man around Area Zero, because, you know, when was the last time a human came down here? What you're gonna notice is Kintaro has a specific group of Pokemon around him that are like his best friends. 4 in particular. Something like a Snorlax, a Slacking, like a Bunnelby, and a Stantler. And the reason for these 4, so most of these you don't even see in Area Zero, so this would have to be some special place that we don't see in games. The reason for this is because in the original Kintaro story, he has 4 best friend animals that he spends a lot of his time with. A bear that he wrestles, a giant bear, which is why I said Snorlax, and then a monkey, a hare, and a deer. So Kintaro having a reflection of those same characters, the main squad that he travels with, would be really cool. But for the sake of this story, he'll also have a 5th Pokemon he travels with, which will be this unique Pokemon that Kintaro will tell to Stray Man is this Pokemon he found injured once in Area Zero and has been with him ever since. And it's a little green Ogerpon. This is a Pokemon movie, so you'll get like a freaking campfire scene while the Pokemon are sharing its food and stuff with Stray Man. Stray Man is telling them stories about the surface and the homeland that he's from. He says he's not from Paldia, and the reason he joined Heath's dream in coming to Area Zero is because Area Zero has a similar mystery to something from his homeland, which is a place that has this weird crystal pool on it. And he'll be telling this interesting story to all the Pokemon, and a lot of them will be excited to hear it, but Kintaro in specific will completely light up like he really wants to see the surface and this homeland. And Kintaro and the Pokemon would also share stuff with him, like these special Terra crystals. Maybe each of the 4 Pokemon, the deer, monkey, rabbit, and Bear, they each have a story with crystals they found and hold dear to them. Ultimately, the movie's gonna end with Stray Man taking Kintaro to the surface, reassuring Kintaro that all the Pokemon down there are gonna be safe and that Kintaro deserves to, live his dream and go to the surface. And so the 4 Pokemon, they give their special Terra Crystals to Kintaro to remember them as Stray Man and Kintaro go to the surface. Who also joins them is Ogerpon, because Ogerpon is special. She's shy, she wants to go with Kintaro too. That would be the ending of the movie. And what this movie would imply is a couple things, right? One, that this is why Kintaro goes to Kita... Oh, I didn't talk about this, did I? My theory is that this is Kintaro. Wait, not this. This is Kintaro, the man with Ogerpon. So yeah, the reason Kintaro goes specifically to Kitakami is because he wants to see this cool homeland of this Heath dude. By the way, they never meet again. When Stray Man goes back up to the surface, he'll join back up with Heath. So he never sees Kintaro again. Kintaro and Ogerpon would just sail off to Kitakami because they really want to see the stories of this place this man spoke about. And this is when the rest of the story happens, right? Freaking Ogerpon and Kintaro make it there. The villagers hate them. They think they look way too different from them. They don't want them nearby. And so Kintaro and Ogerpon are sad. They go to the mountains. Mask Maker takes pity on them, says, I can make masks so you can join the festival. And what did they use but those same Terra Crystals to make 4 masks that symbolized the 4 original Pokemon that were with Kintaro. You got the Wellspring Mask, the Fire Mask, Ashen Gray, and Teal. These could be typings that represent stories about that you would experience in the movie of how the Pokemon got them. So let's say Snorlax, one day it saved some Pokemon from a burning tree, and then it found the Terra Crystal shortly after that. That's what would become the Fire Mask. And then like the Stantler would have a similar story with like saving a Pokemon from the water. That would be the Water Mask. Just something like that, right? To give more meaning as to what those masks Ogerpon have are. That's what I was trying to get to. That this movie would answer the unanswered mystery of what Ogerpon really is with those masks. How can it terrestrial state with them? Ogerpon, as far as we know, has nothing to do with Terapagos. Yet somehow it can do these terrestrial states. So I was kind of setting up for this movie to answer that. That's how I think this movie would play out. And since we know ultimately that Kintaro's gonna die shortly after they get to Kitakami, Peachron and his goons are gonna kill him, that this is why it fits perfectly for this to be a 3rd DLC that's only in movie form, because you can't catch Kintaro in the games. After you watch the movie, you would just download him to your games, and you'd know he broke reality to get to your games and that he's not necessarily real, but you'd hold a special place for him. And there's also one last thing they could do in this movie, right? Because this whole story I told you is a tragedy for Kintaro, right? Like, his whole life sucks. He fell into Area Zero. As soon as he comes to the surface and goes to Kitakami, he's killed soon after. So I think one of the last things the movie could end on is showing that when Kintaro and Ogerpon are joining the festival, just end it off on them having a really good time. On them being able to see the crystal pool and all the sights that Stray Man was talking about, and that Kintaro does get his dream realized of just being around happy people, joining a bunch of festivals in a row, and leaving the movie there. And so the rest of the story that we know how he dies later and all, it wouldn't be in the story, just so it ends on a positive note. So that's my theory for this movie and how Game Freak could do this. So they would have to specifically supervise this movie because they can't give the anime team full liberty to do what they want. It'd have to stay true to specific things Game Freak would set up. So it all depends how far Pokemon and Game Freak want to go with this. But that's my theory and prediction for this. Make sure y'all shank that like button. There's another thing set up with this. I don't know if y'all can picture what I set up with this. So maybe I could make a part 4 to this and just tell y'all more thoughts, because bro, my head be filled with this. So let me know if you want to see that, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.